First a drop in the standings, and now Missouri drops in the rankings and the odds. Let's talk all about that and some football too, right on.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso, and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And let's talk some quarterback on the show today. And also, speaking of the quarterbacks, why does it seem like the quarterbacks need to be protected from the coaches as much as anyone at this point in 2025? Before I start the show, I want to remind you today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And as you would expect, with a couple losses during this past week, Missouri fell to number 21 in the Associated Press poll and to 22nd in the coaches poll as well. To be honest, that seems pretty fair at this point. After a 3-game losing streak, Missouri losing 4 out of 5 of its last ball games. Missouri just playing really its worst basketball maybe of the entire season right now, when it felt like Missouri was playing its best basketball about 5.5 seconds ago, at least in my caveman brain. It was 2.5, 3 weeks ago, but it seems like yesterday in my brain. So the point in even bringing that up is that, yes, things have gotten a little dark around Missouri basketball here lately, but I still think there's time to turn it around. I'm not really sure what's going on with this team right now. I'm not sure if they're running on fumes, whether the book is out on Missouri. Maybe it's a little of both. But either way, we've seen the upside of this team, and I'm not ready to give up on it yet. Having said that, now would be a good time to start playing better basketball, because while the SEC tournament in and of itself may not be very meaningful for Missouri in March Madness in terms of where it's going to be seeded, well, I do think that winning on Thursday is kind of important right now. At the very least, I presume Mississippi State. LSU is not playing very good basketball, but presumably Mississippi State, a team that, well, was playing better when Missouri pummeled it all the way back on February 1st, but again, a team that Missouri has already beaten. The teams that Missouri has already beaten so far beat Missouri on the return match. Turning to me, Tigers, let's get in the right direction here. You certainly don't want to head into March Madness with a 4-game losing streak. And don't get me wrong, against Kentucky, there were some positives, but again, just looked like a team that was running on fumes a little bit, that had lost a little bit of confidence maybe over the last couple weeks here. So hopefully that is not exactly the case. Hopefully I'm overanalyzing it a little bit, and maybe Missouri just played a few bad games in a row against decent competition here. But you know what? The odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook, my title sponsor, are reflecting this new reality, by the way. And not just because Missouri's playing poorly, but because of these results, of course. Well, Missouri's path in March Madness is going to be much tougher, presumably. In fact, just about 3 weeks ago, Missouri's odds to make their first Final Four ever were about 8.5 to 1. Now looking at 13 to 1 over at FanDuel. Odds to win the whole kit and caboodle, the whole shebang, 40 to 1 for Missouri to win the national championship. Now 65 to 1. So, in fact, the Vegas sentiment has turned against the Tigers every bit as much as the Missouri fans have. And one thing I put out on social media following the game was the simple statement that I love Dennis Gates. Despite a 3-game losing streak here, obviously I just wanted to show a bunch of support for a coach who I think absolutely deserves it. And one listener said, in response to that tweet, I do too. I just fear the ceiling is lower than what we want. It's 3 years of no defense outside of havoc steals. Ouch. And I say ouch because sometimes the truth really, really hurts, especially that last sentence. It's 3 years of no defense outside of hack steals. I have a tough time with that particular sentence there, Matt, because, well, the first 2 seasons, we can just say no defense in general. 181st and 180th in adjusted defense, I do believe, the first 2 seasons there under Dennis Gates. Yes, 180 and 181 last year. I had that exactly right. Well, 74th this year is obviously huge improvement. Still not elite or great by any stretch of the imagination, but a huge improvement. But the thing is, Missouri was closer to about 45th or 50th, 40th, somewhere in that range just a few weeks ago. And now it's really fallen off a cliff here. And by the way, these are, when I say adjusted defense, it's adjusted for not only pace, but your opponent as well. So it's not just that the level of competition has gone up, that the numbers are able to adjust for that to some extent. It's that Missouri's defense really has fallen off a cliff the last month plus, to the point where Missouri is well below average metric defensively for the past month or so. And again, I think to Matt's point here, I think he's totally correct. When Missouri under Gates is able to create havoc, when they get steals, when they get the offense sped up and discombobulated and out of what they're wanting to do offensively, well, Missouri looks great defensively and offensively as a result. They get a lot of easy baskets that way too. But the problem is, far too often, you'll see this even within certain games, far too often when the opposition can handle the havoc, just like you saw Kentucky handle it this past weekend, well, Missouri doesn't have a lot of answers defensively. That's something that Dennis Gates and the whole program, I think, really have to start considering and thinking about a lot. I'm sure he is. I guess I'm just pointing out the obvious. And by the way, what a bummer senior day for a class that deserved better. They really did. And unfortunately, I really do understand why Missouri and other programs post-game senior celebration, get more people in this, have more people in the stands in theory, all that kind of stuff. I get why they do it, but man, after a loss like that, gosh, just such a bummer. Now, I did see the other side of it. Yesterday, I did attend Missouri Gymnastics. Their meet against Auburn yesterday, senior day for our Tigers. I'll talk about that a little later in the program, but coming up next, I want to talk some quarterbacks. The odds that Missouri is going to need 2 quarterbacks regardless of who is the starter next year. Plus, you know what? The quarterbacks really need protection from in this day and age? Their own coaches. I'll explain in just a bit, but first, get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of their free Trademaster program, by the way. Well, now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering supply with just a few clicks. Use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And your home should reflect your style. And with WayFair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh, tackling a big home refresh itself, WayFair has everything you need in one place. Their huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter your space or budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, WayFair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. And more than just furniture, by the way, I was surprised to find everything from storage solutions to patio decor, by the way, making it my go-to for all things home. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Well, it was bad enough to have to watch my Kansas City Chiefs get pummeled in the Super Bowl this year. I also had to listen to Tom Brady talk while it happened. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Brady's commentary, so far at least, he's 1 year into it. I'll give him a little bit more time to get better. But the thing is, Brady did make a really good point in the NFC Championship game, I thought. This was after a tush, I do believe, the brotherly shove where Jalen Hurts, of course, sneaks it over the goal line. Well, Tom Brady made a simple and very effective point, I thought, which is that, you know, in this day and age where everybody wants to protect the quarterback, especially the league itself, and of course, every head coach is constantly arguing for his quarterback to be protected. Well, it's ironic that we're actually running more designed, and by we, I mean all of football basically, is running more designed quarterback run plays than ever before. And of course, Tom Brady is 100% right. Now, Brady's thing is, hey, I don't love it, you know, trying to protect these guys, all that good stuff. Brady not being a running quarterback himself kind of makes sense. He was one of the statistically great quarterback sneakers of all time, that's for sure. But Brady definitely does have a point, and that's that when you try to protect the quarterback with rules and everything else, well, it turns out that the quarterbacks and the head coaches are going to take advantage of this, not only with more designed runs for these players, but also, hey, you see Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen really, and even Brady Cook I've seen do this before as well. They kind of run down the sidelines like, oh, am I going to run out of bounds? Am I not going to run out of bounds? Puts the defenders in a really, really difficult bind for sure. But the one thing that got me thinking, though, is with all these designed quarterback runs, how many SEC quarterbacks actually missed time last year? Because, of course, as Missouri fans, we're all thinking Bo Prabula, Sam Horn, Bo Prabula. Who's going to start? Well, the reality is we might need them both, because especially the way Bo Prabula quarterback, at least based on a limited action that we saw with him in Penn State, especially last season, the guy can run, and he's not afraid to run to contact either. In fact, if you can show me a Bo Prabula baseball slide, I haven't seen one yet. That guy is not afraid to take on a tackler if necessary. And in fact, he may enjoy that part of the game. I think as a starter, he's obviously going to have to learn how to protect his body a little bit more. But I have to say, I was surprised going through the list of all the SEC starters last season. Well, at least in 2024, it was a pretty healthy year. Of course, Carson for Georgia, probably the most prominent injury and serious injury of the season for said quarterbacks happened, well, rather late in the season. His elbow, and I don't know, did he get Tommy John, something like that? Regardless, he's going to be heading off to the University of Miami next season. But then you look at Jalen Milroe. He played all season. Nico Iamaleava for Tennessee. Easy for me to say. Brady Cook missed a little bit of time. He missed at least one start to my recollection. But really, you look at the rest of the league. Diego Pavia was fine. The rest of these guys, you know, Marcel Reed and Connor Wigman at Texas A&M alternated a little bit, but that was less of an injury thing and more of a, well, let's see what Marcel Reed has too. The Aggies couldn't really decide on a quarterback last season. The point is, I have to say, again, Quinn Ewers missed a couple starts maybe where Arch Manning came in, but these were short-term injuries. So there weren't a ton of long-term injuries last season, but there definitely were a few spots where, hey, a week, 2 weeks, you definitely may need your backup quarterback, especially as the season gets longer. the playoff gets longer, you're going to probably need a second quarterback more than likely, though I have to say it seems like the devastatingly serious injuries may have been more common back in the day before all of these designed quarterback runs. I will say that. Now, typically, we all know that Eli Drinkwitz likes to bring his young players along slowly, especially true freshmen. They may get some action on special teams, but a huge load on, say, first-team offense or defense, normally not happening a whole lot. There are exceptions to that. Of course, Dominic Lovett was one. Luther Burden was another. But speaking of Luther Burden, I think there is one spot where a true freshman could replace him next season, and that's at punt returner. Sean Terry from Ironton, Ohio, one of the most impressive highlight tapes you'll see. He's an obviously explosive player, not the biggest guy in the world. Will he need some time to polish up and actually be a huge contributor at the receiver position? Yeah, probably. But I've long thought that he can be an immediate contributor as Missouri's punt returner or possibly kick returner too. And Eli Drinkwitz actually, when talking about Terry, used the word elite when describing his return skills. If Eli's already saying he's an elite punt returner, kick returner, that type of thing, I say get him out there now. And I really think he is that type of explosive player that could make a difference from day one in the special teams game with Missouri. Sean Terry, a guy to watch next season and a really explosive player that has the potential to really become a fan favorite for Missouri quickly, in my opinion. And a quick shout out to a 10-year NFL veteran and former Missouri Tiger Mitch Morse, who just recently announced his retirement. Again, a 10-year career in the NFL, mostly with the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs. He also played this past season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Morse, by the way, was an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber center in the NFL. He played tackle at Missouri, both right tackle and left tackle at Mizzou. He was the right tackle on the 2013 offensive line, which is, in my opinion, the greatest offensive line in the history of Missouri football, certainly at least in my time as a fan. So congratulations to Mitch Morse on what was just an outstanding career in the NFL. And for the first time in about a decade, I took in a Missouri event at the Hearn Center yesterday. So I want to talk about a fantastic senior day for Missouri Gymnastics coming up here in just a bit. But first, FanDuel. Yes, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 in extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who is cutting down the nets. It's fast and easy. The FanDuel app is, of course, simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. So if modern college football and basketball get you a little down in the dumps occasionally, has you missing the good old days, well, it seems like the good old days are still alive and well when it comes to Missouri Gymnastics and the non-revenue sports. And here's what I mean by that. In a world of college basketball that to me is often bogged down by replay stoppages and TV timeouts, well, I'll tell you, in an hour and a half yesterday, you basically just got pure entertainment at the Hearn Center. Very little downtime whatsoever. I mean, it was just pure, again, sports entertainment. And I mean that on a whole bunch of different levels. Of course, you had incredible athleticism from Missouri and Auburn on display yesterday, but also just some real passion and emotion that was all the way through that arena yesterday. Of course, Missouri happens to hit its program high ever, the one time I ever go see them do gymnastics. So for those of you who accuse me of being jinxed just because I've never seen Missouri win a true road football game, well, this is a feather in my cap for the other direction here, because not only did you just get incredible just camaraderie and teamsmanship and just everything from, I thought, this Missouri gymnastics squad. It was just fun to see all the emotion pouring out after, Jocelyn Moore and Ariane Celeste, for example, when they finished their final floor routines and their final home meet. Just the emotions poured out. It was just a beautiful thing to see. And again, it was just pure sport. It wasn't really about, well, let's see how many ad breaks we can get in here. And, well, there's so much money on the line. We got to make sure we get all the judgments right. No, simply put, while certainly judging in gymnastics is not perfect, just like officiating is not perfect in basketball or football, somehow in gymnastics, you're able to just accept the score from the judge and move on with your life. Doesn't mean you don't complain every once in a while, but my point is we don't just have to stop and replay every single movement with a fine-toothed comb. So there's a lot of entertainment in Mizzou gymnastics, both live and televised, by the way. The last couple of years, it's been something I've gotten into, the Friday Night Heights. I turn it on occasion, have a great time watching it. Well, it was great to get out there in person and to see some seniors that I've really come to enjoy here the past couple seasons, see what was their regular season send-off anyway. It looks like the Tigers have a great chance to host some postseason action as well. And I'll just say this, they've got a new fan in me for sure. I'm really enjoying gymnastics, a great thing to take your 3-year-old daughter to, by the way, as well. And by the way, my other 40-something-year-old companion had a blast as well. So really family, fun times for all ages and all demos down at Mizzou Arena. Again, if you're a dad who has a daughter, just a great thing to take them to. It's an hour and a half. It's cheap. It's free parking. It's all good. It really is. I couldn't put over the experience anymore. If anything, hey, it was fun to be in the Hearn Center again. Would be nice if they put some railings in there. Holy cow, I forgot how steep the steps are at the Hearn Center. When you're carrying your 40-pound 3-year-old down those steps, hey, I made it, folks. But a little bit treacherous there. I'd say the oldsters are going to be hanging out up in the C section, I'm guessing. But again, railings. I know it's expensive, but you're selling beers. This just seems like a recipe for potential disaster. Probably think about that at Faurot Field as well. So my only complaint there, and the sound mixing as well, my usual complaints from Faurot Field. But otherwise, for real, great time at Mizzou Gymnastics yesterday. A great palate cleanser after what was a disappointing finish to Mizzou basketball's regular season. But hey, thanks for joining me here on Locked On Mizzou. As always, for your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On College Basketball so you can be an expert on the tournament before the tournament. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And until tomorrow, I'm John Miller, and this has been Locked on Mizzou.